Hey guys, alright, I'm a day late, but here go your videos. It's going to be 3 videos of about 30 minutes, I hope. Maybe it'll be less. Hopefully I can blow past these next 40 slides. So many slides. Anyway, we're going to work with me, and you guys have it on video, so you guys are able to watch this today, tomorrow, and Tuesday if you're period 4, because your test is going to be on Wednesday. In period 5, your test is on Tuesday, and Ms. Hutch has all of that stuff, and she'll know to pass all that stuff out to you ASAP, okay? All right, I believe that we stopped on the Safavid Empire. So the Safavids, whew. All right, so the Safavids are going to emerge based on their Islamic Shia tradition. It's going to be very, very different from the Sunni Islam in the Ottoman Empire. So originally, we're going to see some of the Mongols appearing in this area, but it's going to leave the area very, very unstable. And the Mongols are not originally going to embrace Islam, but later on they are. And because they are very, very religiously tolerant, they're going to hire Jewish administrators and Christian soldiers. Eventually, after they decline, we're going to see the rise of the Safavids with Safi al-Din in the Turkish-speaking region, who's going to embrace Shiism, or another form of Islam. All right. Gonna just go on and breeze past this one. Hopefully you guys can see these slides. Not quite sure the number we're on. Number 19. All right. And so the Safavids are not going to be very religiously tolerant. They're going to be pro-Muslim, and if you're not Muslim, gotta go. And even if you're not Shiite, you also have to leave as well. So they're not really going to create a very expansive empire because they're not very tolerant. All right, but they are going to transform the former Shiite territory into a very, very strong, the former Sunni territory into a very, very strong Shiite stronghold. All right, so here we go. We have our map where we can see all of the areas that the Safavids ended up winning and controlling. So we're going to, it's going to be a large portion of the Middle East, what we know as the Middle East today. And there is Arabia. You see part of the Ottoman Empire, or in the Mediterranean, right there, the Caspian Sea and the Black Sea. All right, so last chapter we talked about the Delhi Sultanate. That's going to be the strongest Islamic group in India. And we're going to talk about also the early Mughal Empire that's going to rise up after they start to fall. So the Mughals going to create a regime based on the foundations of the Delhi Sultanate, which avoided Mongol conquest, which also saved them from a lot of the negative impacts of the plague, because the Mongols did not trade there, they did not go there, which means they did not have so many lives lost or a huge outbreak of the Black Plague, because they were not involved in the Mongols' conquest or their trading network at all. So remember that part. Once again, the Delhi Sultanate did not die off because they were not involved in the Mongols' conquest or trading empire, thus spared them from the Black Plague. All right, so the Delhi Sultanate is going to be strong enough, as I said previously, to fight back against the Mongols. But eventually they're going to succumb or fall to Turkish invaders. All right, and so as the Delhi Sultanate falls, we're going to see a split or a fracture in the type of Islams that are being supported and celebrated, or just religions in general. So as they splinter, we're going to see the Sufism, which is going to be that mystical type of Islam that's rising up about stories and about irony and things like that. We're going to see Hinduism also rising up, and then we're going to see Sikhism popping up as well. So you're going to get a form of all those things, but Sikhism is going to be a different form of traditional Islam that stresses the Islamic concept of the unity of God, but also the unimportance of prophets and the Hindu belief of rebirth. So it's kind of a mixture, because India is so religiously tolerant. They're going to have a fusion of Islam, Hinduism that supports Islamic things and also supports Hindu things as well, or Hindu concepts and Islamic concepts as well. And so we have Prince Babur, or Tiger, who is going to lay the foundation for the Mughal Empire, which is going to be the third great Islamic dynasty followed by the Mongols, and I am drawing a blank on the first one. Where we at? The Abbasid Empire. So the Abbasids, the Mongols, and the Mughals. All right, so now we have those three new Islamic empires. We have the Safavids, we have the Mughals, and we have the Ottoman Empire, all working to establish their dominance and their legitimacy in this region, or in the regions of Afro-Eurasia. So they're going to use military conquest, religious conquest, and bureaucratic powers to allow them to claim vast areas and continue to trade more things, ideas, merchants, and scholars, and be able to really spread Islam and the stability of Islam across these regions. All right, so here we go with the Mughal Empire. We can see the Mughal Empire is not going to be a very, very big empire. It's kind of small towards the top parts of South Asia, or what we know as India today. All right, so Christendom. So we know that Christendom is going to definitely take a hit after the Black Plague comes into play, because obviously a lot of people were going to be looking for religious authorities to help them during the Black Plague, and unfortunately, the churches oftentimes stepped back. So after the plague took over and killed a lot of their constituencies, they had to work to reestablish their power and their dominance. And so they're going to establish prosperity, population, and cultural achievements as well. Population growth is going to happen where they're going to pull some of those countryside laborers into the cities and start building that manufacturing culture that they're going to be known for within the next 300 to 400 years. But in general, we're still going to exclude women from a lot of these tasks or a lot of these things. They can be retailers, and they can do weaving, and they can do food production. So things that are considered ladylike or womanly are things that the women during this Middle Age period of Western Europe can do. All right, and so most of the 80 million people that are still alive in Europe are going to be rooted in their local communities, meaning whatever happens there is going to stay there. You're going to see a lot of city-states rising up, a lot of those smaller nations that are eventually going to form some of the language groups that we know, as well as some of the countries that we currently know, including like England, the Netherlands, France, Spain, and things like that. And so we're also going to see a rise of prosperity because of the cultural flowering, and so we're going to see more universities that are going to bring people towards medicine, towards law, and towards theology. And we're also going to see some people turn back towards knowledge that had previously been taught, including Islamic, Greek, and Roman learnings. All right, so we've talked about this previously, but whenever there's any kind of famine or any kind of drought, in general, it's very difficult for governments to maintain their power because people don't trust them. If you're not able to end the drought, or if you're not able to feed my family, then I'm going to look elsewhere for leadership. So oftentimes that mandate of heaven or that divine right or divine power is going to be a major role. But often it's just kind of luck of the draw and how weather patterns are predictable or unpredictable depending on where you are. And so we're going to see some climate changes around 1300s that are going to bring around famine, and people are going to die from starvation, as well as the plague coming up and killing a lot of people. So we're going to lose about 2/3 of your population over a 7-year period, so from 1346 to 1353, we're going to see a lot of people losing their lives. And part of the reason why so many lose their lives is because previously with our climate issues, people weren't getting enough sustenance, enough food, and it makes them vulnerable or extra weak to these infections that might rise up, including the bubonic plague. Plus, the areas that they're moving into are much more overcrowded. People are sleeping underneath each other and not the most sanitary conditions, which is going to lead to diseases spreading rapidly, especially when we have trade, and a lot of the trade involves things that rats live in, and we know that rats carry fleas, and that fleas carry bubonic plague. All right. So I think I got a little bit ahead of myself talking about the plague and some of the impacts of the church. So evidently that was before the plague happened. The church was thriving and rising, but after the plague happened, that's when the church is going to fall. And so the plague is going to create psychological issues. Just imagine if in a 7-year period, your whole town is completely gone. You're one of the few survivors. Your mom, your daddy, or whoever else have all passed away because of the plague. And it's very rapid. It's very violent. And there's nothing to really stop it. And you don't know what's causing it, who's causing it, or how to prevent yourself from getting it. So a lot of psychological issues, a lot of social issues, because people are afraid to interact with each other for the obvious reasons of not knowing if you're going to get the plague. Economically, same thing. We're going to lose a lot of our people who are important to running the country. The plague is going to specifically take out a lot of farmers. And with the farmers not being around, that's going to cause a lot of people to lose their lives because food is not going to be able to be grown as successfully. Spiritually, as I said previously, people don't believe as much because they were praying and the plague still swept through and took a lot of people. So they're going to have to really reestablish their control and dominance because religion is kind of a newer concept in terms of like staying stable in that religion and not swaying with the wind. All right. All right, and so we're going to see peasants become hostile towards clergy's excesses and absence in the time of the crisis. So once again, them not being around or them having lavish things and not lavishing those things on their subordinates or the people who follow them is going to lead to a lot of mistrust and a lot of hostility towards them. And so the church is going to struggle to reclaim its power in the face of all these things. It's going to increase the persecution of heretics and people who are speaking out against the church. Jews, Muslims, homosexuals, prostitutes, and witches. Witches are those people who are getting people sick or making people act crazy when they're around them, or whatever that issue might be. An example, I guess, in America would be the Salem witch trials, where we have some witches who were eliminated for influencing young girls and things like that. And so that's going to be one of the things. So they're going to get tighter and get more homogenous or more of the same and less tolerant of other people. We're going to see an expanding in charity, and so the original social service organizations on the earth are all going to be churches. And so they see that that was one of their issues. They were not there for people when they needed them most, and they're going to change their structure to be more welcoming and inviting to their constituents. And it's going to help them, or try to help them expand their populations and rebuild their numbers after the plague is there. All right, we're also going to see the feudal system is going to be weakening. We're going to see a more of an emphasis in autonomy. The feudal system was once again where we have a ruler who controls a lot of the land, parcels that land out, and then charges the people using that land for numerous things. It usually is basically forced poverty, where you're working on behalf of the feudal lord and you're not really receiving any benefits, and you're not able to move up in your standing or stature in the world or in the community. So we're going to see a lot more peasant revolts because usually the peasant class is going to be the largest class of people that we have. So the peasant class is going to revolt in France in 1358, and they're going to rampage the nobles and the clergies. And then we're going to have an English peasants revolt, about 20 or so years later. That's going to start as a protest against a tax increase, and it's going to expand, including serf freedom, higher farm wages, what's that word say? Can't see that word, but either way, higher farm wages, worker wages, and lower rents. So they're going to want to expand their freedoms and get more things. And we're going to see some of these concepts expand in European culture and society. All right, and so as these powers build up or rebuild from the plague, because once again they lost about 2/3 of the people who were living there, they're going to work to try to unify Europe in a way that it has not previously been unified. And so one way we're going to see that, they're going to establish like monarchies and ruling families. The Habsburgs are probably going to be the most famous, and they're going to have someone in power between 1440 and 1806 during this period of Europe. And a lot of other royal families are going to try to marry into their family to preserve their legitimacy and to maintain their strength and order. And so Europe is also not going to have a unifying language during this time period because a lot of people have died off. These new groups who are rising up want more control and more dominance. And we're going to see that Latin is also going to fade away as a national or a controlling or dominant language. It's going to definitely lose way to some of the regional ones, including English, Spanish, and French, Dutch, and things like that. All right, and so as the European powers are attempting to rebuild themselves, they're facing a lot of pressure from a lot of different groups. So one thing is happening is that people feel more empowered during this time period. They feel like they have more control. Also, knowledge is spreading. The printing press has allowed for a lot of the texts that were from different areas to be spread to Western scholars and things like that. And so as they explore their knowledge base and learn more about the different things that were happening across the world, they're able to kind of challenge the narratives that have been told and taught to them by some of their European officials. So you're going to see a lot of pushback from these people. And also during the same time, the pushback is going to be aided by the fact that there's so many small areas throughout Europe. So if they make somebody angry, they can just go somewhere else, continue speaking their truth, make somebody angry over there, go somewhere else. And there's no one really to stop them, which is going to, aid in the spread of challenges against European authority and the European church and things like that. And that's just the educational challenges, not including the Janissaries or those private military armies that are going to rise up during this time period, and other clergy who feel like they have, a more knowledge base on what really is going on in the Bible or what really is being shown in different areas. All right, and so once again, we're going to see the rise of monarchies during this time period where they're going to try to consolidate that authority, try to banish those outside opinions by having this one ruler who's in control of every single thing. And so we'll see a lot of these strategic marriages with the Habsburgs. We'll talk about Spain in a second and how they were able to unify through Isabella and Ferdinand. And then some of their later family members. They also use warfare, and so planning with warfare, family planning, and then also growing their economies because of their Southwest Asia trade. And we'll talk about how as they grow their economies, they're going to also try to expand their territory bases, which is going to lead to some of that travel into the Americas later on down the line. Well, actually, not too far down the line. We're in the mid 1300s. So by the 1400s, we're already going to be in that expansion period where Columbus is sailing around looking for India, even though he ain't made it to India. All right, and so here we have a map of Europe. Hopefully you guys are looking along with your PowerPoint. This is going to be slide number 32. Kind of blowing through these. Pretty awesome. I won't take an hour and a half of your time, probably only 30 minutes or less. You can see some of the origins of Europe and some of these kingdoms. We have the Ottoman Empire over here. We have Bulgaria. We have Hungary. We have the Holy Roman Empire through here. We have some of these papal states in modern day Italy. We have Naples over here. France in the beginning of that. We have England. We have Denmark, we have the Poland, Lithuania, and the Russian Peninsula, Norway, and we have the 4 territories that are on the Iberian Peninsula that are eventually going to be unified. This part with Spain is going to be unified, but over here, Portugal is going to maintain this autonomy, and they continue to maintain autonomy today. We have all through here, so you guys can see how many small little states there were throughout Europe, which once again allowed for a lot of the spread of information, a spread of challenging opinions, a spread of a lot of different things. All right, so I was just talking about the Iberian Peninsula, and here it goes. All right, so Portugal is going to be an example of political stabilization and the revival of trade and how they're going to be intertwined. So Western Europe is going to follow the Portugal example of creating national monarchies, while in Northern Europe, and the lack of access to trade is going to add to the political instabilities. So we're going to see that Portugal is going to consolidate. They're going to become stricter with things. They're going to unify. They're going to intertwine the money, the economy, and the political system. And we're going to watch how that allows Portugal to honestly start leading the world and be one of the early forerunners for European dominance. One of the early places that we're going to see reaching out for slavery or for slaves, going into Africa looking for those slaves, is going to be Portugal, and that's going to be because they were able to unify their trading and their political system, which allowed them to have a stable foundation and grow roots and move forward. And we'll see how in Northern Europe, how that lack of access to trade, mostly because of location and political structure, is going to also lead to the downfall or the lack of strength in some of these areas until a little bit later when they can kind of unify and get their things together. All right, so also the Portuguese are going to be unified in trying to remove the Moors. So the Moors are going to be the African Muslims who are dominating that region. They're going to push the Moors out just by unifying and fighting them off. So eventually the Moors are going to lose their stronghold, lose their strength, and not be able to ward off or defend against an attack from the Portuguese. So they're going to seize fortresses in North Africa that belong to the Moors. They're going to seize them in Morocco, and then we're going to see parts of Castile, which is going to be modern-day Spain, also lose their Moor invaders or their Moor leaders. And so we're going to see Henry the Navigator, who is going to be one of the monarchy's sons, is going to come through and also conquer the islands, the Atlantic islands off of the North and West African coast that were one of the last Moor strongholds, and further push them away from the Iberian Peninsula and things like that. All right, and so we're going to see that the monarchs from these Portuguese areas are going to grant land to their family members, essentially, so they can colonize these areas. And the nobility, in turn, is going to fund or give taxes to or tributes to or just give money to their monarchies so they can continue to, basically it's a business. The monarchies are putting their family members in place, the family members are paying the monarchies just to ensure that they're able to continue running and that they're able to maintain their place in society. And we'll start to see the development of sugar and sugar cultivation with sugar cane in some of these island tropical nations, and we know that later on that sugar is going to be a major part of the triangle trade for slavery, because sugar cane is going to be taken back to be made into molasses. The molasses is going to be then turned into rum, and that rum is then going to be traded for people. So we'll see all of these things intertwining. All right, and so here goes Spain. So Spain's issue is that they had so many, like most of Europe, they had so many small dynasties that were fighting for power and fighting for dominance. And so a way that they're going to find a way to unify everything, they're just going to intermarry. So a lot of Spain's dominance and controls comes from intermarrying so many different groups and populations together. So we're going to see the uniting of the Castile family and the Aragon family with the marriage of Isabella and Ferdinand in 1469. And so by unifying these, so we have the very wealthy and populated Castile region that was shown right here. And then we have the Aragons on this side, and so they're going to come together and unify. Where are we at? Okay. And so once they unify, so we have the wealthy and populated Castile region, and then we have the trading or the financially or merchant rich Aragon family, and they're going to merge together. And so once they merge together, they're then going to kind of pawn off their children or give away their children to other European groups so they can further establish their monarchy and their dominance and control over that region, because their bloodline is going to be going all throughout Europe. All right. And so they're even going to have connections with the Habsburgs, which previously the most dominant European family monarchy that ran from the 1440s all the way to the 1806. And so with that, they're going to be able to push Muslim control completely out of Spain. But the downside is that everything is going to become relatively the same. We're going to become very aggressive towards people who are not Christian, or people who fake, or who in their opinion are fake Christians. Yes, but we'll see how eventually that homogeny, it helps them, but it'll eventually kind of hinder them too, since everyone is going to be the same. Alright, so I just kind of got ahead of myself. I'm just telling you guys about, kind of forcing people to convert to Christianity, and if they didn't feel like they really were Christian, they would just kind of kill them off or do things to them. But eventually, as I said previously, their homogeny and their quest and their striving for more land, more territory, more everything is going to lead them to pay. Nobody else would pay for Christopher Columbus. He went to a whole bunch of people and they was like, nah, dog, I ain't doing it. But Isabella and Ferdinand were like, yeah, let's do it. Alright, but we all know that Christopher Columbus never made it to India. He made it to the island of Hispaniola, which is the modern day island of Dominican Republic and Haiti. And when he was there, he named that area the West Indies, even though he was not in India at all. He was in America. Don't let the history books lie to you. Christopher Columbus was a fraud. All right. So next slide. So we're moving on. We're on 37. I think I'm going to pause this video and upload it. This has been about 20 slides or so, and we only have about 20 or so more to go.